work, the family and sexual images, they're all connected. Why is it that they continue to exist? Now, I think, why this talk is called capitalism and women's oppression is that women's oppression has existed for thousands of years. I would describe it as a systematic discrimination against women by society and by individual men. I mean, it's both of these kind of things. But in a way, when you look at capitalism in the 21st century, it shouldn't exist. It seems to be almost kind of counterintuitive that today, when women do have education on an equal basis with men, which wasn't the case until relatively recently, where women are able to go into jobs, again, on a much, much wider scale and have much more opportunity to go into some of the things like the legal profession that certainly weren't available to them 40 or 50 years ago in any numbers at all. You kind of look at it and you think, well, why should it be that women are oppressed? Why should they suffer a disadvantage? And of course, this is one of the big ideologies of capitalist society, that actually, if you do suffer a disadvantage as a woman, this must somehow be your fault, that somehow you've done something wrong by not pushing yourself hard enough, by not wearing the right colour lips, those kind of things. That's the kind of simple explanation for it. Now, of course, that isn't an explanation at all, because it can explain why one woman does or doesn't do a certain thing, but it can't explain why half of humanity doesn't do these things. And you have to look for other explanations. And what I would say is that the contradiction at the heart of capitalist society in relation to women, and the contradiction at the heart of capitalist society is, of course, the whole system of class and the whole system of class exploitation, the way in which the majority of us work and the minority take the profits as a result of our work. But at the heart of women's oppression inside capitalist society is this, that production is socialised. In other words, we all go out to work, we all operate as social beings, we all have to work collectively in order to earn our livings and in order for society to develop. That's one side of it. But reproduction is privatised. That when you look at social production, going out to work is cut off from the other side of your life, which is the family. And the family, far from being an institution which extends people socially, actually the whole name, nuclear family, suggests the opposite. It suggests that the family pulls everything in to itself, and that the family becomes one unit, which is a private unit, a privatised unit, and within that unit, the woman bearing the brunt of the childcare, of the housework, and all those kind of things. That is the basis of the oppression, which then feeds on, not just to how she's treated in the family, and again, in some families, you have the most terrible sexual violence, the most terrible physical violence, the most terrible abuse of various members of the family. In other families, you don't have that at all. You have relatively happy or contented kind of families. So you have both of those things going on. But the family isn't just about how individual men and women and children relate to each other. It's also about what it does to everybody else. So the sexist images and the attitudes towards women over rape and physical attractiveness and gender stereotyping, all these kind of things, stems from this nature of the family and the contradictory nature of the family. On the one hand, it's meant to be a haven from the heartless world, and in lots of ways it is a haven from the heartless world. You only have to look at people who live outside of the family in capitalist society to see what a miserable world they often live in. If you're homeless, if you live in what's ludicrously called care for young people who live who don't have families to live in, who are cared for by the state, if you look at any of those people, most of those people would much rather live in a family. Yet at the same time, the family is an institution which has at its heart this privatised reproduction and the oppression, not just of women but of children as well. So it seems to me that's the main contradiction there. Now, when you look at what Marx and Engels wrote about women, and when you look at what more recent Marxists have talked about, we always talk about oppression coming from class society, and this always causes a great kind of controversy among many people who regard themselves as feminists or who regard themselves as being against women's oppression. And one of the things that people say is that if you're talking about class, are you reducing everything to class society?